let me go across to two live guests who are joining us. Dr. Samir Parikh is Chairperson, Fortis Mental Health Program. I also hope to be joined by Professor Raghu Murthugude. He's retired professor at IIT Bombay, and Dheeraj Singh is IIT Kanpur alumnus. Let me come to each of you. First to you, Dr. Parikh. What, according to you, is the problem? Is it that, as Chetan Bhagat said, high achievers can sometimes also suffer from high anxiety?
Rajdeep, I feel that a lot of times we give an exaggerated importance to marks and grades, both for our own selves as students and parents, but also the environment around. Fact is that globally, death by suicide between 15 to 29 age group is the third highest killer. And 70% of this or more is from middle and lower income countries. There are a lot of aspects that needs to be looked into. Awareness, prevention, relationships, peer support, parent and relationship of these individuals, the environment at these
But why would IITians do it?
These institutes
but I'm sorry to intervene, Dr. Parikh, but why would high achievers do it? You see, I can understand those who haven't achieved their goals getting anxious, but high achievers, these are IITians who've gone through a very tough JEE exam to get there. Does high achievement lead to high anxiety?
No, Rajdeep, I don't think that is a direct correlation we should allow ourselves to make. Anxiety, depression are significantly high in terms of prevalence. In fact, the WHO report had mentioned a 25% increase post-pandemic as well. We look at achievers as to feeling that because they've achieved, they may not experience the other human emotions, which are also there. And these emotions can be related to peers, relationships, parents, finances, so many other aspects as well, and mental health issues as well. I think what we need to look at is one thing, before anything else comes to your mind when we talk about suicide, always say these two words together, suicide and prevention. Suicides are preventable, and that's why it should hurt us. That when over 700,000 people die by suicide every year, it should hurt us.
Okay, I'll come to the prevention in a moment. Dheeraj Singh, you're an IIT Kanpur alumnus. What's your sense? Why is this happening? Because the numbers are staggering when you think of doubling in the last decade.
So Rajdeep, I would like to not go into the pop talk here. You know, I have heard some earlier panelists giving analysis that, you know, it's an IIT problem or something like that. First, I want to give a global context. You know, where are the numbers, let's say in US and Europe, in the technical colleges, we have about 4 to 6 suicide death rate per lakh students studying there over a very long period. In IIT, that number is 12.5, you know, 3 times more. Now, are we saying the talent exists only in IITs and not in other top engineering, global engineering colleges? By the way, IITs do not have yet cracked there in the ranking list. So there is less suicide intensity in US, UK, Europe, but much higher suicide intensity in IITs, particularly if you see, Rajdeep, in 2004 when I graduated, there were 2 suicides in the year. In last year, 18 suicides happened. 18, that's figure of 9 times.
So why?
I'm coming to that. Now look at the breakup. What we did, our group, Global IIT Alumni Support Group, we have been extensively interacting with students, taking their survey. And what we realized, academic pressure is the #1 reason, 70 to 80% trigger, localized trigger, not the root cause, they're different, can be attributed to just academic pressure and the way the academic transaction is taking place in the IITs. And top 8 colleges have 80% of those incidents that you have reported, 150. Now today, including, it makes 151 suicides. Top 8 colleges.
You're saying, you've said something very important. You're saying academic pressure is the top reason in IITs for death by suicide. Professor Raghu Murthugude, retired professor at IIT Bombay, is joining me. Professor, Murthugude, your initial remark, what do you believe? Do you agree academic pressure is getting the better of students?
It's complicated because I myself am an alumnus of IIT Bombay also, and I saw 2 suicides, one during my tenure at IIT, my stay at IIT, and one just after. And both were doing very well academically, and I have studied this a lot over time. Now I have a course on my channel called Climate and Human Evolution. Suicide is very difficult to understand even evolutionarily. Obviously, it's an impulsive action, and there are many trigger points which can, pressure points which can trigger the impulse. Is it just academic pressure? I'm not so convinced, because even smart kids do that. And over time, there used to be single rooms. Now there are double rooms. There are interpersonal interaction issues. There are all kinds of pressure points. We don't know the typologies, the morphologies of these pressure points. Simply bringing it down to academic pressure as a single pressure point, I'm not convinced that's the case.
So what according to you, you're saying there is no one reason for it?
Honestly, we have to be, much more scientific about this. We are talking about the numbers over 20 years, and we have a larger population where suicides happen. Are we really statistically above the norm? It's a very difficult question, sensitive issues. We cannot ask such questions. But if we want to solve this problem, we have to understand whether we are really elevating the number of suicides expected in the society, or if we are in the norm. Doesn't mean we cannot stop it, or we shouldn't stop it, or we shouldn't try. But once we have that baseline, then we have to start mapping the risk that students feel. And the most important thing in my mind is that students should feel completely free to express their anxieties. That may not be happening, that they are not getting a chance to say, I'm not feeling well. They feel pressure to act normal or ignore problems, and then it gets too late. So it's that ability to express.
Dheeraj, you wanted to respond. Just to reiterate, 2005 to 14, 42 deaths on campus, 2015 to 25, 108. Go ahead, Dheeraj.
2 points, Rajdeep. One, I disagree with my respected professor, for reason being, the suicide death rate of the country in India as a whole is about 12 and a half suicides per lakh population. The suicide death rate in IITs as a system together is roughly about 16 to 17 per lakh population. So you see, if you compare the resources, the budget and the resources, average IIT budget is roughly 10 lakh per student. Average country population per capita budget is 50,000 rupees. Now look at the poor, the system should have been much better. It is not. So certainly there is some problem. Now, whether we are going to slice and dice the problem here on this panel, I certainly agree that this is not the way.
My only aim was to, go ahead. Complete, Dheeraj.
I'm only trying to say, since 20 years, there has been no commission of inquiry to inquire why these 151 suicides took place. What is the reason? Who's accountable? And what is the way forward in terms of the remedy?
Important point. Dr. Parikh, from your vantage point, if you were to offer any solution, what would you say? All the IITs are saying now they have counseling centers, mental health centers, but do you believe there's a solution out there?
Yes, Rajdeep, there is a solution out there, and we all have to work together, and we all need to understand that when it comes to suicide prevention, mental health experts like me are just one small piece of it. All of us are in it together. You as media professionals also, because this conversation also is a step forward. But having said that, let me try and give you a bit of an overview of what we can and what we should be doing, starting from schools, mental health curriculum, media literacy, social skills, life skills, so that young people are able to learn how to cope up with pressures of life, and right from early ages to understand that a cross-section of life, which is marks in a particular grade or a particular semester, do not define who you are. In a 75-year longitudinal axis, that cross-section doesn't matter. If you're struggling, go reach out to someone, which means encourage help-seeking behavior. Because
so you're saying it's
who struggle with issues, especially to mental health, they don't reach help.
Okay, so you're saying there has to be an institutionalized system that starts from school onwards. Professor Murthugude, let me give you a final word. Do you believe, as Dheeraj pointed out, there at least needs to be an inquiry? These numbers deserve greater attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I would still insist that numbers outside cannot be directly compared to IITs. It's not about the budget. Outside, you may be in an environment with friends and family where you have an easier time to express yourself. Whereas when you are thrown together in an environment like IITs, in hostels with expectations from their own parents running high, you have created an unusual situation. So that has to be accounted for when you compare numbers in the outside world versus IITs. With all that, we still need action. There's no doubt at all. We are just talking about how to go about bringing action without having a baseline, and we need baselines.
Okay, let's leave it there. As I said, this focus was only intended as a wake-up call, because we haven't heard enough from the authorities on what they intend to do to ensure that this problem is addressed. And that's the only purpose. As I said, our entire aim on the 9 p.m. news is to put the searchlight on the stories that really matter. This is a story that should matter to every Indian. Let's take a break. When we return, I'm turning to my Get Real India story. It comes from a part of the country that also doesn't get enough focus on prime time. We're turning to Chhattisgarh.